school fees structure are strictly prohibited. Now, non-cash items must be catered for in the school budget. Now we are asking, David.
Well, it's a very interesting scenario that we find ourselves in, where parents decide and agree to contribute towards an emergency in the school, and permission is sought and granted by the permanent secretary. No learner shall be excluded from school on account of parents' failure to pay the agreed amount in accordance with Section 9(3) of the Education Act 2018. As soon as the emergency is solved, the school shall stop charging the emergency fund, reads the guidelines in the part. However, this is not necessarily in the case. Some schools have turned away parents and their children for missing one or two items of the list of requirements. This morning, we have a concerned parent in Maria Ntali, who is from Mothers Raising Sons. Together is Patrick Kaboyo, the National Secretary, Federation of Non-State Education Institutions, joining us this morning. Good morning, sir.
Good morning.
Good morning. Thank you very much for joining us. School requirements, I have that famous cartoon by Chris Ongon, where there was a parent with just some little bit of money, which was school fees, but with a host of things as school requirements. And many times we've had parents complain that, you know, look here, you are asking for school fees, which is a lot of money and a heavy burden to some of us already. And then when you come to the requirements, it's like you're building a school. To some schools, they have wire mesh, they have cement, and you're asking yourself, okay, is my child going to become a builder at school? What is going on? There's a broom, there's toilet paper, and then sometimes the children come home and they say, well, we don't use some of those things. So this is becoming a really big burden to the parents. We'll start with the parent yourself. How much of a burden is this? Yes, we know it is a big burden, but how much of a burden is this to you when you hustle out for months and months looking for school fees? Then after that you are done, you're like, oh, school fees is then you start thinking about the requirements.
It is a hassle indeed, because at the beginning they've given you these requirements which you have to look for, on top of the fees, on top of the private requirements as well, the grab and all the personal effects that they need to go with. And then you get to school, and the funny thing is that they are very particular about a brand, and usually it is the most expensive brand that they want. So,
is this a public school or a private school?
This is a public school.
Wow.
I'm talking about. Even the private schools do it nowadays.
So they don't just ask for requirements.
No.
They ask for a particular brand.
A particular brand. I'll give you an example.
Wow.
If it is toilet paper, they'll want Eurosilk. Or they want Piao Piao, you know?
The one that is
the most expensive.
Yes.
Yes.
Soft one.
Yes,
the soft one. Quite understandably, they don't want your children to come home with bruised behinds.
No,
So
that would have been okay. But then there has been an incident where we've gone to school, we have a parents' day. So you're given the washrooms, access to the washrooms, and then you'll find the lowest quality of brand of toilet paper, one that you weren't asked for. And mark you, when you come to school, you're looking at every student, they have the brand they've asked for. But in the toilets, it's a totally different brand. Luxury, the lowest, the cheapest. So you wonder, we were concerned at one point. We asked them, what happened to the toilet paper we brought? Why are our children using this one? Well, I think they were embarrassed, so they changed the tactic, and they said, stop bringing toilet paper, we are going to add it onto the school fees. I think that is maybe a better, because, you know, they have a higher purchasing power when they buy in bulk than having to ask a student to bring those pieces of whatever it is, cement, reams of paper. That one just annoys me. But there have been cases whereby we've been to school, it's usually put on the report, bring these items with you, but then there are times when that item is not put on the report, and you get to school and they're asking for it. They're asking for a ream of paper.
Meanwhile, is this, you know, narrative that you're giving us from a boarding school?
It's a boarding school we are talking about.
Okay.
You have come, you have paid up the fees, you have paid the requirements for your child, you've paid the pocket money, you're dead broke, believe me, you're dead broke.
Right.
And you get to the checkpoint and they said, no, we want the ream of paper that costs 18,000 shillings. It's nowhere in the vicinity, you have to go down the road or somewhere else, look for it. You're telling them, this is not the only kid I have other kids I have to look after as well. Please be patient with me, I'll come back maybe next week. And they're, no, bring it now, we want it now. And you're arguing and asking, why didn't you put this on the circular? Would have looked for it. Why are you telling us now we don't pick money from trees? Yeah? That is the unreasonable part. I would have agreed with that if they would include it onto the school fees. Maybe it helps because, like I said, it is a higher purchasing power they have when they are buying in bulk than having to ask these parents to bring cement, to bring toilet paper, to bring rims of paper, to bring broom. It's really unreasonable.
Mr. Kaboyo, isn't there a limit to what should be asked from these schools? Because yes, we understand, this is a child that is paying school fees, and they're paying these school fees to this school. Why do you ask them to buy a thing? Petty. Some of these things come out to look very petty. A broom, two brooms. A parent looks for 2 million Uganda shillings, 1 million Uganda shillings to pay school fees, and you ask them to bring 2 brooms, send them home because they didn't bring 2 brooms.
Thank you, Uncle D. That's what I know, and Malande viewers.
Yes.
For me, I think this issue is bigger than what we are discussing. And it's quite just a disservice to give it the few minutes because it rotates on the institutional, legal and policy framework upon which education is delivered in this country. We know that education is a liberalized service. As we operate purely private sector 100%, but we now have a hybrid of business that you find also public schools operate as private entities. And when it comes to guidelines, we all operate under one law. But by nature, liberalization is to lessen or to some extent block one eye in terms of control and regulation. But as government, we don't need to completely shy away or block because these are social and economic issues. Even myself, my children report to school, I have struggled to get the requirements, but we're asking, what's the unit cost of delivering education? How much will I pay to educate my daughter who wants to be a scientist or an artist? This is when government must come in to have an honest discussion because every school has a school motto, school mission, and to some extent core values. But do these schools live to these core values? Largely in public schools, much as parents are the sole contributors of these fees for tuition, but to some extent you are barred from accessing the school where your children go.
Right.
You are allowed to stop at the gate. Even when you enter the school premises, they will tell you, sir, madam, because of this, you are not allowed to see your child, maybe to discuss issues that pertains to the education. Or maybe you want to find out exactly, like madam said, are those the toilet papers there? Do we have voice as parents? Do we participate in decision making? Do we have parents and teachers associations in every school, whether public or private, that are functioning?
Correct.
If that's not the case, then shall we have school management committees move alongside board of governors functioning and also trying to ask these schools whether there is a tendency of living by the core values? For instance, if we say our school believes in integrity, our school believes in accountability, but you are not reporting to the parents who give you the money, then that is an issue. And if you want to report honestly, then the Education Act or the law should be amended to address these issues, because any good law is that one which addresses issues that are prevalent.
You know, speaking of the law,
Yes.
and she did mention that it's even worse in public schools, government schools. And you expect it to be the other way around, that it should be worse in private schools, for example. But just speaking about the law now, and I'll just quote this, and this is according to what it states. Now, where parents decide and agree to contribute towards an emergency in the school, and permission is sought and granted by the permanent secretary, now, it continues to say, no learner shall be excluded from school on account of a parent's failure to pay the agreed amount in accordance to Section 9, subsection 3 of the Constitution Constitution, and this is the Education Act 2008. As soon as the emergency is solved, the school shall stop charging the emergency fund. So if you're having it worse in a public school, then what does it tell about the laws?
I think, to me, that deserves to be audited or looked into critically. I have not read that, but I want to say that schools are run differently. We need to have a school culture, a school system that promotes a whole school approach and holistic learning. But there are these schools, my friend, where there are showy parents. A parent comes to school to show how he or she has money. If you go to a school and create an emergency, for instance, in a parents' meeting, a parent says, I'm not comfortable with this kind of painting. Can we replace or renovate? Then hands shoot up and a contribution is made or another contribution is projected. That one you ask, was it in the school program?
Correct.
When the school is beginning, every term there should be a school plan for a year. What did you plan to do? Which emergencies did you anticipate? As the technical advisor of the school, who is the head teacher, did he have this plan discussed among, let's say, the school key managers, and we anticipated these emergencies, or these emergencies keep coming in as and when we need to present them?
So having an accountability structure, pretty much.
What we need is accountability at all levels. As you ask your child to bring a report, tell me how you have performed. Equally, these schools should account to the public, should account to us.
You did mention something very important, that
Yes.
Parents play a key role in ensuring that these schools don't, misbehave. Because this is, misbehavior, misuse of, the parents' resources. Now, you are a parent to 3 boys, and they're in different schools. Now, do let us know, are you in these parent associations?
Yes.
How functional are they?
They're quite functional in some schools, I must say. In others, they are not there.
Okay.
It is just a figure there that you're a parent. The communication is not there. In other schools, it is there because they call us. We have annual general meetings, we have those term meetings, and we are allowed to voice our concerns, whatever concerns you have, and they're taken into notice. There are certain schools that are really serious about this. He talks about the accountability. There are schools that my children are in where they have a plan. The treasurer, the board of treasury, the one on the board, he's strict about that. Nothing, this emergency fund business is not there. They say you want something, communicate early in the year. They don't even have a supplementary budget.
Correct.
If it is not there, it is not. If it is not on the budget, they are not going to look at it.
And what is this emergency?
That is what I ask myself. How urgent is it that it can't be postponed to the next term or something like that, or communicated earlier? Yeah. So, like I said, I think those things need to be put in place. The accountability, the planning, and we just need to instill it into them, into the administration, and let them know that, you know what, plan, know that you have these things to be done in the future, because it is a school. It is not something that's going to come up.
Correct.
Yeah, you're not going to say we need to build a class. This is something you have known all along. We need to buy beds. It is something you have known. You don't bring it last minute and start putting it on parents.
Right now, when you say you're going to buy beds, you're going to build a dormitory, you're going to build, why are you paying school fees and contributing to the construction of a school? Because in my case, I was disturbed a lot, because I think going through my secondary school, I think we contributed for about 2 years for a swimming pool at our school. Unfortunately, I never got a dip in that school swimming pool, because by the time the swimming pool was being finished, I was done. I was in S6, I was leaving school. So of my contribution to that school to build that swimming pool, I never enjoyed the swimming pool. So to what extent should this contribution be? Because, well, I have a list here of some of the requirements that some schools ask for, and some of them are understandable. When they ask for your child to come with a fully answered holiday work, a computer practical guidebook, which for me, some of these books that are asked for on this list, I have one question for you. What is the use of the library at school if every child has to come with their own textbook? Then where does the library apply to or come to use for the kids? That is just a question. But just a look. 10 rolls of toilet papers, Eurosilk. Let's be honest. Does a child use 10 rolls of toilet paper a term? And they're even particular. Eurosilk.
And the question is, now that you're a parent to children, when they come back home, of course after school term, do they tell you that this toilet paper, they actually put it for themselves and used it themselves, or teacher took it away? What happens in a boarding school?
Again, it differs. There are some schools where you leave it with the teacher. I mean, as in the checking point, they are ticking off, you put it there.
As they pack it in the store?
Yes, and they pack it in the store. Then there are other schools where they'll check, and the student will go with it.
Okay, let me go on with this list. A broom, one to sweep inside and another to sweep outside. A squeezer. Then there is a brush, you know, that scrubbing brush. Fast forward, a calculator, a dictionary. You need a tablespoon and a fork. A vacuum flask. For what? These are kids not just going to be running up and down. They're going to break this flask. An umbrella, a mosquito net. It's some of these things are
Not necessary.
Recently, we had a political analyst here who said, and we were talking about MPs and Parliament and how they're not representing us enough in Parliament. And his answer was very simple. When we vote these MPs, we officially give up, we surrender our rights, our decision rights to them, so they start making decisions for us. And we're looking at a situation where we as parents, as soon as you pay school fees to this certain school and you say that my child is going there, you surrender your rights to certain things with your child, because very many parents have argued, as soon as I drop my child at school, one, I can't go visit them unless it's visitation day. Even when they are sick, sometimes some parents are stopped from seeing their children when they are sick. On visitation day, they tell you don't bring food with soup. You have to go with, you know, it's like those 3 months, 4 months, 2 months that your child is at school. You have literally surrendered your child to that school. But then they're not, they're putting you a task to provide too much. Are you parents just being too lazy and not demanding the schools that, you know, if a school asks you to build a library, for example, and we contribute that fund, you contribute and they build the library. If next time they're asking your child to come with a dictionary, why are you as a parent still buying that dictionary and not putting question or tasking that school to explain to you why they asked you to build a library, and at the same time they're asking you to bring a dictionary? You parents are being weak. Every time they ask you for something, you just give them, so the schools keep asking for more.
Do you blame the parents?
Yes, I think you would need, you'd blame the, no, at times we're between a rock and a hard place, because you can't say you will not take it there because they won't accept your child into the school. So what you need is concerted effort. Again, a parents association where you have a task force that is going to table these issues to the administration and tell them, look here, we have these concerns, we are paying for this, we are paying for that, and we are not seeing it. So there has to be an accountability. In some schools where I have been, the administration tries, it sends out reports, progress reports. The money you sent, we have done this so far, we are at this stage, we are doing this now, we will need some more money next term, we'll let you know. You know, that kind of accountability, it also falls back on the parents, and they feel comfortable. They know, okay, our money is being put to good use. I have one of my daughters is in a public school, but they take the time to break down that fees. Yeah, another private school does that. They break down the fees. They say that the 1 million is for this, the 500,000 is for this. They bring it down to the 20,000 is for the textbook or for facilitation. So you know how your money is being spent. But then there's schools that will just give you a blanket figure. Then you might have paid maybe 1.5 last time, next time you're paying 1.9. No explanation. You just have to pay it.
But you see, that is what I was saying. You as the parents, you're being very, how do you raise school fees from 1.5 to 1.9? We just had teachers this morning here on this desk. The industrial action. They're not going to appear in class.
Yes.
Because they're demanding for their money.
And yet we've paid the fees.
No, you the teachers, wake up, you the parents, wake up in the morning, and the school fees has shifted from 1.5 to 1.9, and you still hustle quietly and take the money to the school. Meanwhile, I'm not allowed to do this, but don't you think it's time for parents to put their foot down and say, look here, as the teachers also wake up in the morning and start industrial action, we are not going to contribute to the growth of this school. I am paying school fees, I'm buying textbooks, and you're asking me to help with money to build an extra dormitory.
For me, I think you reap what you sow, and you can't give what you don't have. If society really is docile, does not demand, it takes things for granted, and also the education being delivered promotes blind obedience. You don't ask the teacher. When you ask the hard questions, you are always aching or expelled from school. If your child asks what is happening in the school, is labeled, is mistreated, you shift the child from this school to another because your child is empowered. So what we need is to have empowered citizens, communities, is to have civic education, that these parents are able to ask the questions, and the questions should rightly be to government. We need a law that factors in the functionality of PTAs. PTAs are like auxiliary. They are not part of the law. But right now, the education sector is undergoing reform. So we want to hear parents questioning all these issues, by the way, we are discussing, should be in the law as the basis for us to deal with them, because we have the basic requirements and minimum standards for both public and private. For colleague directors in private schools who are listening, it's not that you have the money, you set up the school, yes you have, but you have to follow the law.
Right.
When we have a community that is stressed financially and also academically in the classroom, we are not going to produce human capital that is going to take this country far, because we do not rest in terms of how we want our country to be run. And this can only be addressed if we check ourselves whether the conversation we have now is what the ministry is desiring to have. But also, every school must have a meeting, a weekly meeting. What are those issues do they discuss in the school? Do they discuss these issues, or they discuss other things that don't pertain to what we are discussing? Even the ministry should bother to know, what are schools doing really? What business? We need commissioners who should leave the offices
yes.
and visit schools.
So what we've agreed is that the parents need to up their game.
Yeah.
The laws need to be revised and implemented.
As of yesterday.
As of yesterday. And the monitoring and regulation systems have to be in check. We need to have the schools monitored, we need them to be inspected and checked on a regular basis.
And inspecting them requires that government allocates enough resources there for inspection.
I see that I disagree with you.
Why?
I don't think there should be money allocated anywhere for inspection.
Not inspection.
Do you know why? Because this is just my argument. These people you're asking,
Yes.
the ministers, the people that work in the ministry, all of them have children that are going to school. And at those same schools, they're asking for these same requirements.
And they are also
paying them. So there is not really, just simple. We just need to set these laws, and when they are set, there is no reason for us to monitor. You just know that this as soon as this parent knows that A, B, C, D is what I should pay for, this is my limit to the contribution to this school. Plain and simple.
Uncle D, I'm telling you this because there are schools where a government inspector has never
Visited, yes.
and there are schools which are doing their things because nobody looks at them and have taken them as good things.
Correct.
When they are wrong things. But when this person goes to interrogate how things are done, then people say, oh, this is a bad thing. Even some could be listening and seeing us now. They are saying, oh, that man is pointing at us. That's what we need, that you do right things and don't hold parents hostage. because that breeds a country that is stressed. And it is worse to deal with anybody, but a stressed person is more dangerous than the sick one.
Can I just add one more?
Yes.
Ministry of Education, I think, should put its input in the schools by funding them. The library, textbooks should be put there. Yeah? Certain textbooks need to be put in a library. Classrooms should be built. I mean, this is the role of Ministry of Education. They should do that to public schools and not make parents pay. They can put some money and then we'll supplement so that it is a shared cost, not leaving it all to parents.
Correct.
You see, I seem to be in disagreement today. I don't want parents to contribute to building schools. So those schools are owned by those people. They're asking for school fees. Let no parent buy cement to build a fence.
I agree with you.
You agree?
Right.
I agree with you. Quantify all the funds you need into a solid request and you account what you've done.
You sort yourselves. Don't ask me for that bag of cement or two.
All right, that brings us to the close of this conversation. And we always say that once you have knowledge, then you can fight better.
Yeah.
So also the parents need to equip themselves with information such that they can put these teachers and schools to task, right?
Sure.
Okay, thank you so much for joining us. We did have Mr. Patrick Kaboyo, the National Secretary for the Federation of Non-State Education Institutions in the country, and also Miss Marian Tale. She is a parent, very passionate about these matters. I hope things change, and I hope you empower other parents to do better. All right, that's it for today's conversation, but we have something in store, David.
Oh yes, right about now, let's link up with Francis Mugera, Daily Monitor correspondent, for an update on that Hoima boat accident that happened over the weekend, so that we can get more details from that. Good morning, Francis.
Good morning, how are you?
We're fine. How are you doing this morning?
I'm very fine.
Well, give us an update on that accident that happened over the weekend.
Well, it is quite absurd that some people perished in a boat accident on Lake Albert yesterday when a football team that was on a canoe boat heading to Runga landing site capsized at Fofo landing site in Hoima district. So far, 3 bodies have been recovered, and about 20 are still missing, but 27 have survived. They made their way. They managed to swim back to the landing site because the accident happened about 300 meters from the landing site. The boat had just taken off. So when it capsized, some of those who knew how to swim were able to swim back to the landing site. So currently, the team of the police and the army, they are working with the locals in a desperate attempt to search for the missing bodies.
Francis, you look at that number, 3 bodies have been discovered so far, 20 missing, 27 survived. Was this boat meant to carry that many passengers?
Not really. The boat had the capacity of carrying about 20, 25 people. Wow. It was a passenger boat, but it was an overloaded one this time. The fans forced themselves onto the boat. It was carrying footballers who were going to play a friendly football match on a neighboring landing site. So some of the fans forced themselves onto the boat, and actually by the time it capsized, the coxswain, the one who was driving it, was negotiating a corner to return to the landing site and force away some of the fans that had forced themselves onto the boat. But also, it is worth noting that all these people who were on the boat didn't have life-saving jackets. So, and this is a common phenomenon on the lake. People just board their canoe boats and begin fishing. They begin traveling on the waters. And that's a big risk.
Okay, thank you very much, Francis. I know now my next question was going to be if you have talked to the authorities. I know right now they are not anywhere to be seen because this is, a boat that is meant to carry 20 to 25 people carrying 50 passengers. But thank you very much, Francis, for that update. We'll reach you a little bit later on for more.
Most welcome. All the best.
Okay, so there we go. More stories coming in. We had an incident that happened last year, towards the end of the year, and it's really sad to see that again we're having passengers on the waters without life jackets, with overloaded. A boat that is meant to carry 20 to 25 passengers having double that number on it. It's quite unfortunate. Anyway, that's the discussion we have had today on Take Note. Of course, just we needed to update you on that story that developed over the weekend in Hoima, where a boat capsized carrying about 50 passengers. The details we have is 3 bodies have been discovered, 20 are still missing, and 27 survived. Morning at NTV continues right after this.